So who's been outside yet? It's pretty cool this morning, wasn't it?
Yeah, I walked over the office. It's a little bit below 50, I think, but it's supposed to get up to mid to high 60s. So it'll be a nice walking day later.
Yeah. So
the sun's bright. Looks pretty.
Yeah, and I saw the forecast. It's supposed to be, I think, 26 or something on Friday morning. That's not good for anything as far as flowers or growing crops in the field. And so hopefully it won't be down there very long. We had a couple trees that I didn't know after the last freeze a couple of weeks ago. It went from being beautiful flowered trees to like, it looked like they were shriveled up and gone. So hopefully this Friday won't be too long of a freeze.
I guess that's why they say to wait till after Mother's Day to plant things. So I haven't planted anything yet.
Is that from the Farmer's Almanac or?
I don't know. Probably my dad told me that many times. He's quite the farmer in his retirement. So
right.
Yeah, he likes all that.
We have some folks starting to join us now on Facebook Live. I'm kind of moving over here. This is kind of a first. We are this should be the first time we've actually broadcast live on YouTube in addition to Facebook. So we've got our new channel set up. It just actually got approved late last night. They actually let us stream with it. So I'm actually starting to.
Great.
Oh, let me mute my sound over here. There we go. I got to get used to monitoring now 2 different live events. So,
you're going to be a pro.
Live here this morning. It's just now hitting 10 o'clock. So we've got a number of people that are starting to drift in here. So hopefully everybody's gotten their second or third cup of coffee by now and kind of settling in. And I think this is what Father Paul, is this our third? Our third
one. Here's
third cup of coffee, our third, so 3s, okay. But, so just welcome to everybody. We kind of started this 2 full weeks ago. This is our 3rd time to have some time with Father Paul and just to let him kind of give us an update on what's going on around the parish as we continue through the pandemic. And so, Father Paul, I think we're ready to go. Just take it away.
Well, good morning, everyone, and glad you're with us today, and glad you're making good decisions. Glad you're going through all this with a sense of patience and dedication and prayer. And with that spirit, let's begin our time with a acknowledgement of God's gracious love and watching over us and the divine mercy that extends throughout the world. Lord, we do pray. We pray this day that our world will be able to make one more step forward to become safe. Bless all those who are suffering and bless those who are mourning. Bless those who are caring for them. Bless those who are worn out. Bless those who need to make decisions and bless all those who are conducting research. Send your spirit into our world. Bless us with the gifts that we need as we go through this day. Bless us as we continue our journey, as we look forward to a brighter day, but also as we need to be wary. Help us to make good decisions, not only for ourselves, but for others. We dedicate this day to you as we open ourselves to your great love and your life and your mercy. We pray to you as our God who's with us forever and ever. Yeah. Well, folks, last week as we met, one of the things I focused on was the beginning of the parish back in 1945. And it was significant, I think, in those days that already the vision would be that this would be a parish that would have a school. So before the church was built, the school was built. The school was operative in 1951, and it's been a critical aspect of the life of our parish community and part of our ministry. And in many ways, many of you who are watching, you and perhaps your children and now some of your grandchildren are part of this school. So to give you an insight into how things have been going, what we're looking forward to, what's going on presently, what's going on in the hearts and minds of typical teachers, and how it's going with the parents and the children as something like homeschooling's going on. That's not exactly that. we've asked Paula Smith to be with us, who's our school principal. So I'll defer to you, Paula, and let you kind of take a big chunk this morning and sort of share the story and be able to respond to some questions that might come from the community out there or from Deacon Tim or myself. So again, thanks to you for all you've been doing and to your faculty and your staff and just the great people who've been guiding the school and adapting to things and putting in all kinds of extra hours and drawing from the essence of creativity and just helping good things to keep going. So welcome. Glad you're with us this morning.
Thank you, Father Paul. Thank you both for having me, and hello to everyone out there. And hopefully some of our school families are there listening. And it's just a lot of things going on. And I'm sure that back in 1951, they would have never imagined what we're dealing with today and the changes in our school. And very suddenly, of course, going from a brick and mortar school to an online school. And I've shared also this week about just the importance of community and that it still is, the school is a very active, vibrant, lots going on in our community. And just a lot of wonderful things going on. Sent out this week just a little sneak peek or just of all of the teachers and all of the student interaction that's going on, tried to capture that in a video to share with everyone. So please take a look at that because it's just very uplifting of all the things going on. I think we have a tendency probably to look at the school and not see anyone going in and out, and that kind of saddens us that we're not together, but we're together in another sense. And trying to continue that interaction and that community. So yes, lots of changes, a lot of hard work, and this is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we just can't say enough about how much we appreciate our teachers and all they have given through all of this. It's been quite a challenge, and just lots and lots of changes, and so they've adapted very, very well to all of those things. Our goals from the very beginning was we just want to make sure our kids continue learning and that we keep going with that. Whatever it may be, we want them to just continue to move forward. And so we've done that and some, and they've just got used to it not being a typical E-Day from the get-go when I sent out an email to the teachers just saying, I need your help. This is not going to be a typical situation with the E-Day as we would have for an inclement weather situation. This is something that we would need to keep them going, provide instruction, move them forward, because we don't know how long this is going to be. And as of now, we see that we're closing out our year this way. And so we're thinking about the next level and preparing, making sure our students are prepared for those grade levels. So lots of discussions about assessments and what we can use and report cards and how all that's going to look. And so lots of great discussions with our teachers and staff. And we meet regularly. I have multiple meetings a day with small groups, and then the last couple of weeks combined groups together. And last week we had a full faculty meeting online, so that was great for everybody to see one another. And then they also reach out to one another for that support and have some additional meetings and just group time to just connect with one another, that not even talk about school, but just checking in with each other. So that's been great. From the get-go, when we entered into this, we started talking about directives and guidelines for our teachers from the get-go. What do we want this online form to look like? And so we set expectations and using just a variety of things. What should we focus on? What should be most important? What are things that that we would normally cover that we're just going to put aside for right now? Because some of these main ideas and topics and content and skills we really do need to focus on to get them ready for the next year. So giving them those guidelines of what the daily subjects will be taught, will be what will be done on certain days, that we've had our specials, that they have them one day a week. When if they were normally in the school, they would have them more often. How often religion class would be. Also, just making sure that our teachers provide some just a variety of different ways of teaching and activities, that we don't want our students just in front of the computer all day. We want to make sure that their lessons and activities incorporate movement and just using a variety of resources. And they've been very creative with that. If you watch our Facebook and Instagram of all of the things that our students are doing, and parents also being very innovative. And so we want to make sure that, we're not just our kids aren't just in front of a computer all day, because that's not healthy for them either. So that's kind of how we started, and wanted to make sure that we provide lessons that are engaging and help our students really connect, and also a balance. And because we know that many of our families are in different situations, and parents may be at home, they may not be at home, and students may be, older students may be watching younger students and helping them with their homework. So we just want to make sure that we provide a balance and look at that on an individual basis with our students. We also want to make sure our support staff are there to help provide support for any of those families that need us. We've been calling every family in our school just to connect with them, to see how they're doing, and we've sent out surveys of just kind of to check the temperature of how things are going, and checking also on the social emotional aspect of our families and our students. And our guidance counselor, Christine Gibson, has been helpful with that and providing lessons that, just to think about the situation. And for adults, for us, can be scary. And for children, it definitely can be scary because they don't understand. And they're also oftentimes not able to articulate their fears or concerns. And so how to handle that is also part of this unique educational experience in kind of in a different way than we normally would. So I don't know if you have any more questions, or I have more I can talk more, but I wanted to stop a minute and see if there are any questions, Deacon Tim. And get me a drink of coffee.
Yes, thanks, Paula. Don't have any questions, but I did have somebody, Michael has a grandson, Julian. He's listening in. He's going to be a brand new first grader at Christ the King this coming year.
Awesome. Great.
In to hear what's going on.
Wonderful. Looking forward to having that family with us next year. And this is a time when, enrollment and admissions are very important. And we, right now, Kim Thompson, who would normally take care of those kind of things, she's taken another position in the diocese to help diocesan-wide for tuition assistance. So we're very excited about that, but we miss having her. But Amy Smith and Kelly Taylor have taken on a lot of the things that Kim would have done as far as marketing and admissions and communications. And so they've been very helpful with all of that. One thing that we've been creating just recently are some virtual tours that Amy has been working on and getting up on the website. So families who have expressed interest can kind of perceive a little bit of our classrooms and our school life, and very well done. So would encourage you to look at those on our admissions page, and we'll kind of get more information out about that next week, so to share with everyone. But it is something that we're still continuing. We're still enrolling new families. We've probably enrolled half a dozen new families since our closure, and we have had probably a dozen or more people who are inquiring of coming next year. So that still continues. Our re-enrollment is going on right now for our current families, and so getting all of that taken care of.
One
Yeah,
of the things I think
I did want to let you know,
right.
I put up the link to the YouTube video that you created, kind of the one about the kid, everything going on in the school that you were referenced earlier. So that's in there. And actually, if we have enough time, we can actually do that right here. We can actually let people see it. So
that'd be awesome. It just gives that little snapshot of what's going on at the
yep.
school.
One of the things I think that it's helpful to know is that there's a diocesan superintendent of education who works with the schools and brings principals and representatives of school leadership together in a variety of ways to have collective wisdom. And I think we all know that we're not sure, of a lot, but we're not sure what a typical classroom will look like. We're not sure what a class day will look like with, the social distancing that might be needed. Even as we read yesterday's or this morning's paper, we're not sure of even when the school year will begin for the public school system, and quite possibly for us. And yet, in the midst of it, I think we have the certainty of, what we will do, we'll do in a methodical way, we'll do in a well thought out way, we'll do in a professional way, and we know that there's adaptations we need to make. I don't know if you can speak to some of that, Paula. It's too early to say anything specific, but we know that there's a variety of questions, and yet I think there's also some grounds for confidence that we'll be able to just keep moving forward and provide a great education for the kids.
Right. And we know in this circumstance, it's not ideal, but our students are getting a great education, and that's due to our excellent teachers and the systems that we've got put in together. And next year holds, of course, lots of questions, um, lots of discussion, and just a lot of what if questions being presented to us. I'm thankful for our diocesan schools, and that as principals and our superintendent and the diocesan staff there that is there to support us, and that we can work together. That I'm regularly conversing with other principals and Zoom meetings and meetings with the diocese, with the superintendent, and texting one another, just thoughts, ideas, articles, and lots of that discussion going on with them. Also with my staff, and a lot of those what ifs, and what are other people doing and other countries doing, and other states, and what is our governor directing us toward. So I think right now it is just looking at a lot of different possibilities and being ready for many of them, and that we are starting multiple plans of what could happen. If it is an early start in July, or a regular start in August, or a late start after Labor Day, we need to be prepared for all of those. Also, just looking at sharing our communication, just communicating with our families about that. Hey, these are all the things that we're thinking of, and who all we're involving, and can we get your feedback, and just to let them know that we are thinking about all of these different possibilities. And then just looking at also, it could be that we have a variety of different plans because we don't know what is going to happen next year. That it could be that we, have a plan where everyone's able to come back in the building and we can social distance and spread out. Another plan could be that a part come in at one time, and that we do more of a hybrid, that partly they will be studying online and part of them will be in the school building. Or there may be times when we have to go back to being totally online. And it could look like we may have to transition between all three of those possibilities throughout the year until we just don't know what's coming at us. So we just need to be as prepared as we possibly can. And I'm confident in the support that we have to help make that happen, and the innovation of our faculty and staff to be able to pull that off. And whatever we need to, our focus is just what's best for the students, and getting them through the year and continue that learning. So lots of still what ifs. What ifs. I wish I had the crystal ball. No, but I know we all do. And but just got to keep going and preparing best we can. And right now too, just talking about the closeout of the school year and how we're going to do that and how we're going to get things back to students and get the classrooms back the way they need to be, and get um, students computers back, and just a variety of things to plan out, and making sure that we get all that ready to go for the next school year. Supplies ordered, textbooks, all of that. Doing our inventories and being able to get teachers in the building, but spreading that out so that we still are very much, not very many people in the building at a time, and um, just got to have a well laid out plan for all of that.
Well, one of the big events for support of the school has been the Big Blue Fling, and I know that's going to happen virtually. Can you say a couple things about that to help the folks who are with us to, kind of put that on their radar?
Yes, I know that many of us are disappointed that we weren't able to have our Big Blue Fling this year. It's such a pivotal event for our school year and enjoyable for many of our families. And it is our biggest fundraiser for the school. And we appreciate all the hard work that leads up to it, and our Big Blue Fling committee and all the sponsors that have just stuck with us and continue to support us. Even though we're moving to an online version of our Big Blue Fling. And I sent out a letter this week about the Big Blue Fling, inviting people to participate if they could, but to also understand that people cannot and don't feel comfortable in doing that. I totally understand that and appreciate that. So it's just something that we're putting out there to make sure that we're following through with our sponsors and to show our appreciation for them, and continue our commitment with them, and that our Big Blue Fling committees looking forward to it, and hopefully it'll be something that enjoyable and gives everyone just a little bit of a break from other things going on. So we're looking forward to having that time. It does start on the 11th, and we'll go through the 15th, and we'll have the big raffle on that day. So Deacon Tim's got the flyer up, and all our wonderful sponsors. We appreciate them greatly.
I just wanted to just recognize. I know you've already recognized your faculty and staff. They're heroes to me. They're as far as people on the front line as anybody, and
Yeah.
And I really admire. Gosh, I can't even put into words because a lot of your teachers trying to teach their students, and they have their own children that they're at home with, trying to help them continue their learning with however that's being done. So I can't even imagine what their day is like. And so just, gosh, if I had a hat, I'd take it off. To the faculty, they're heroes in my book.
Well, lots of extra challenges there. They've just done a fabulous job to keep things going, and taking care of some of our middle school teachers, hundreds of kids, connecting with them and making sure that they get what they need, and also taking care of their own little ones, right at their feet. So we greatly appreciate that. And I know that they would say that in one part, it's a blessing to be here with them and see some milestones they wouldn't see before if they were working. But also, it is a challenge, and we just appreciate them so much. And, just in some ways they are those, that main connection with our children, and our children right now really need the support to get them through this time. Their world has drastically changed, and they don't totally understand why. And our teachers are there to help them through anything, and our families and parents going through anything that they may be dealing with. So we appreciate them greatly. Lots of great things in store for Teacher Appreciation Week. All right. How have we done? Is it good? 10:25, 10:23?
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. Good.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I could talk that long without coughing, but I've done good.
And you didn't
Great.
cough once.
I didn't. It's easier during the day. Early morning.
All right. Well, thank you, Paula, for coming, and
Absolutely.
everything that you guys are doing over there, and keep us posted. I know we exchange information. You all have your school notes, and we've got our parish newsletter. So we'll try to keep everybody updated as things progress and change. And
we appreciate it greatly, Deacon Tim, you working with us on all of that, and especially these end of the year events coming up with our 8th grades, their awards that they look forward to, and their farewell mass and their graduation. We just really trying to work, as I said, making that really special for them. And I know that they've missed many things that they've looked forward to. We just very disappointed that we're not able to do our DC trip. So we really tried to do our due diligence and tried to change it and work around that. But unfortunately, there's just too many unpredictable situations, here in Washington, DC to take our students there. So just remember them in prayer, and that they've had many challenges, but they're strong, they're overcomers, and they'll be okay. And we're very proud of all the hard work that they've done this year.
Just a reminder too that tomorrow at 8 is Mass, and as we try to do on Friday mornings at 8 o'clock, we try to gear it towards the families and the children. And following Mass, there'll be a tribute to mothers by students from the 7th grade, I believe.
7th grade, yes.
Invite you to to pray along with us, from your homes.
all right. What's next, Father Paul?
Well, a little bit of a potpourri. First of all, we have heard from Father Mark, and the airport at Nairobi in Kenya is still closed. So the earliest that will be open will be May 18th. So again, that's the whole mix of being able to depart, but also being able to land, and then what all that will mean. So lots of uncertainty, but he reports that he's doing well, and he's at peace being with his family. And Kenya is a place, of course, it's impacted by the virus, just like so many other places around the world. But in terms of, say, most severely hit areas, it wouldn't really fit in that category. But we don't want to say anything definitive about any situation, any place, because all this can change fairly quickly. But right now he's safe, and we're looking forward to him coming back home soon. Tomorrow at the latter part of the afternoon or middle of the afternoon, there'll be an hour of our beginning of the food distribution ministry. And there's been a strong response from People's Charity and Compassion for folks who are in need. And I'm understanding that there's, through one of the social service agencies, we do have some folks who will be taking advantage of that offer that we're making. And very grateful for the volunteers who will be right there on the scene, and grateful for those who are behind the scenes and support in prayerful and financial ways to help this to be a go. So thanks to all who are pouring themselves into this ministry. That's one more piece, and it might be even a foundation for more and more that we'll be doing in that area. Just to give you a sense of what's going on too, we've had some Zoom meetings lately, and many of you watched on Monday when the staff pretty much were all together, and we spoke a little bit about our ministries and how we're doing, and we're glad of that. Last night we had a meeting of the parish council members, and again we did it by means of Zoom, and we made some plans and adapted some plans, made some adjustments, and strikingly, the people whose terms are coming to a close on the parish council, they're very open to serving another year, just in the midst of this critical time, and knowing that it's going to be very difficult to do elections. Later today, I'll be in a Zoom meeting with the board members of Catholic Charities. I'm honored to be a member of that board, and Catholic Charities, on behalf of the diocese, is doing an awful lot of ministry to folks who are in need from an economic and material needs standpoint. So again, they're expending themselves in terms of the capital that they have to work with. They're giving an awful lot of themselves personally, and sharing in some of the most difficult situations as they feel with the people and in need, and then also provide the help that they can do. And it's one of the most critical of the charitable arms of the church in our diocese is the ministry of Catholic Charities. So please keep them in your prayers as they move forward. Tonight is another Zoom meeting, and it's going to be with the chair couples for the Oktoberfest. And again, it's one of the joyful events that we have. And if the Oktoberfest was tomorrow night, it would sure look different than it usually does. So we're sort of speculating on how we can do it in September and how that will work. And we want it to be a go. So again, there's some indefinites, but it'll be great to be together as we pool our wisdom and keep moving forward. Doing a variety of one-on-ones, or you might say two-on-ones, is a lot of the marriage preparation now is going on by means of computer, whether an online program or an actual Zoom meeting with the couple as they're preparing for our weddings. Some of our weddings are continuing, and they're going to be 10 people or less because of some vulnerability of family members. And even as we move deeper into the wedding season, some weddings will be postponed. Some will happen with social distancing. It's certainly not what people were dreaming of, X amount of months ago when they got engaged, when they named their wedding date and they started this process. So we just want to do the best we can as we care for people, as we help them to celebrate sacraments, and say with marriage, the beginning of response to the call from God and this vocation to marriage, and yet in a way that's far from ideal and in terms of the celebration. We're moving along in the Diocese of Lexington. As many of you know, there's a primary headquarters on Main Street, where a variety of offices of the diocese are located. The bishop's office is there, and so they function as an office that coordinates the overall ministry of our diocese, but also is I think a model for us in terms of how to minister and how to be a community of workers as we minister. So they've got a Healthy at Work plan that just came out the other day, and it's I think a good model for all of us, and a good reminder of how important it is to have that Healthy at Work plan. And all of us parishes are called to basically have the same thing with regard to our school, with regard to our offices, and certainly with regard to our churches, and all the various aspects of our ministry, whether that's social life or youth ministry, or whether it's classes that are taking place or spiritual events taking place, that we need to have healthy practices ready to go. I want to speak a little bit, and we know that the governor said, well, you're able on May 20th as churches to reopen. May 20th is a Wednesday, and that's church night for a lot of churches. We in the Catholic Church see Wednesday as the middle of the week, not necessarily the same approach that a lot of churches would have with Wednesday night services. So anyway, we know that today the four bishops of Kentucky are meeting. They're meeting with governor's representatives, and their goal is to work out a plan that will be usable throughout the throughout the state of Kentucky with all of our 4 dioceses, so that we'll be able to serve you well, and also to do that in a way that's consistent as we move forward. And again, we know that there's going to be principles that are really, really important, and then there'll be the local adaptations. You and I know that, in a parish like Christ the King with thousands of people who are part of our parish, it's going to be a lot different than coming back to church in a small Appalachian parish where there's maybe a dozen or so households who are part of the parish. So we know that we'll have to make adaptations. Bishop John is going to meet tomorrow with a committee from the Priest Council, I think, to respond to and refine as needs be, or offer some more localized principles for us as we move towards our reopening. There's an organization that's a national organization. It's the Federation of Diocesan Liturgy Commissions, and they've recently offered a document, and I think it offers a good background for reopening. Honestly, I know that many of us are chomping at the bit. Many of us want to know or want to be part of the development of a plan that will work here, and there's lots of issues that need to be faced as we plan to do that, and we need to do that carefully, and it's probably a little early to say, well, here's what it's going to be. Again, it's who'd have thought that 3 months ago that when we go shopping at Kroger's, we have to stand in line 6 feet from one another and only go in one door and be admitted one at a time. Who'd have thought that? And again, we're going to be doing in some ways the unthinkable compared to 3 months ago when we're reopening and re-entering church. And again, the key thing is safety. Let me read a little bit from this document from the executive director of the Diocesan Liturgical Commissions Federation, and this document was written on May 3rd, so it's from this week. It just reminds us that the liturgy is considered an exercise of the priestly office of Jesus. In the liturgy, the whole public worship is performed by the mystical body of Christ, that is, by the head and his members. And that's always true. So the value of the communal nature of our liturgies and the inherent value of our community of faith and parish life are honored by all of us. But these right now are not normal times for this gathering of community. We've learned to adjust temporarily to a new normal of participating at Mass in front of a television or a computer screen. Some of you maybe have attended Mass, with a cup of Java in your hands, and hopefully we'd all had more, just a strong commitment to pray as best we can. We long for the sacraments, and we've been relying on the tradition of spiritual communion. And we did it through Holy Week. The holiest days of our liturgical year we've done in our living rooms. And yet we found solace in the liturgical symbols and sacred texts and the ancient traditions. And we've stayed apart. We've had this distance because that's part of right now living in the light of the gospel. So in solidarity with the entire body of Christ, we do have an obligation to respect our liturgical traditions, but also our obligation to respect the dignity of every human life, a dignity which the church has always defended and protected. So our bishops did not hesitate to suspend masses and to dispense the faithful from the obligation to attend Mass. During this time of the pandemic, we're going to continue to champion the common good and to conduct our public gatherings in manners which protect the health of our assemblies and others whom we will encounter. We'll continue to mourn the dead and comfort those who mourn them. We'll continue to pray for the sick in our cities and in our country and our world. And we've been going through this, we're used to this in a way now where we've got these restrictions. Visiting among family and friends has been eliminated. How many of us have not been, catching up with our best friends and our family members, or if you will, dropping something off at the front door of an older person and then driving on, or standing at one end of the parking lot and parking, the one end of the driveway and talking to somebody who's standing on their front porch. These are unusual times. Schools are closed. Computer screens are substituting for our classrooms. The stores are changed, and many of them have been closed, and restaurants are different. Travel's restricted. Who feels good about the idea of riding on a bus? We've learned the wisdom of staying safe at home, and we're doing our meetings and family gatherings virtually. A sports season has been canceled. You'd never dream of this kind of stuff. In some places, food supplies are scarce. The new and intensive cleaning protocols have become commonplace in stores, even in streets, in our own homes. Masks and wearing gloves are very common now, and will be for a long time. We realize that this coronavirus is very real. We might say, well, here in Lexington, it's light, and we're safe, and yet, when it's all said and done, there's still a lot going on, and the curve can change. We're probably in a place where we're flattening the curve, but that doesn't mean it's over by any means. And so right now, as of May 3rd, 66,000 lives have been lost in the U.S. And many hospitals are still overwhelmed. So there's lots of issues out there. And the federal, state, and local governments are still enacting strict measures. We've come to learn that when we set a date and a deadline, it's not always 100% reliable because of the severity of the virus. And so the introduction to this document is full of gratitude. And it's speaking to people involved in church leadership, but I think it's involved also speaking to each and every one of us, and certainly echoes my thoughts. Thank you for the many ways you and your parish have shown God's love during this pandemic. Thank you for moving so quickly to close churches and schools. That keeps people safe. Thank you for learning new technologies in order to live stream masses and to adapt to social media in order to spread the truth, spread the faith. Thank you for the amazing ways that you have increased charitable outreach and care for those who are unemployed and hungry and homeless or alone. In the midst of it all, thanks to everyone for the countless ways that you've sacrificed to serve God's people. Now, there's some general principles that are suggested. And again, the general principles are general. They're not necessarily specific. And there's 7 of these that are suggested here. And the first is that the common good is our priority. Our first consideration must be for the health and safety of our parishioners and those whom they will encounter. This is especially true for the most vulnerable members of our populations. And that includes, some of our seniors, those struggling with illness, many of whom are pillars of the parish and have given their, so much of their lives to, be part of life here. But we have to admit to ourselves that all of us, if we're leaders in the church, that doesn't mean that we're medical or scientific leaders. We need to rely on medical personnel and scientists to give us our best advice as we care for the common good. The second suggested principle is that we define our policies in phases. So the policies and guidelines be implemented in phases. So this needs to be clearly delineated with some suggested dates are benchmarks, but also to know that lots of times there will need to be some changes because of the factors with the disease. I think it's a wise thing that we try to do something on a statewide basis within the Catholic Church. So it is a fact that, you know, what we're doing, what we're going to be doing, it's going to be temporary, but we don't know what temporary means, and we just have to take it, you know, day by day, day by day. It's going to be good for us to try to offer televised masses on a continuing basis. It's a benefit to those who are homebound or sick or are vulnerable. And many people have found it to be a great way to pray. It's not the same as being here, but if it keeps somebody safe, it's a great thing, and it's still prayerful. And there is the suggestion that around the country that the dispensation from the Sunday obligation continue, that be extended, so that again, people who are high risk or people who for one reason or another just can't get there. And you know, the protocols of the diocese that we're talking to or looking at, you know, what they're doing around the country, you know, they're saying, you know, you need 6 feet from the people around you, or even if you come together as a family unit, it needs to be 6 feet from the, you know, everybody who's around you. And so with that in mind, you know, we'll be able to get, you know, just about 25% of the people into the church that we would have pews for. So it's going to be one of those things that not everybody's going to be able to come every week, because we got to give room for everybody else to get there. And that's going to be tricky, and we'll find a way to work that out. And there's a variety of different approaches, and we haven't really come up with ours yet, honestly, but we want to work with that, and we'll come up with something that will be the best we can do to help everybody. The fifth recommendation of the principle is to preserve the liturgical year. You know, a great example of that is we did not say, well, we're going to wait and do Easter when everybody can come to church. We did Easter at Easter. You know, so we're staying with that, and we'll do the best we can with that as we honor the sacraments and as we honor the movement of the liturgical season. The sixth principle for us is related to what we're doing now. Communication's the key. Whenever directives are initiated or updated, they should be communicated completely to the faithful. Well, clergy and staff might have the first line of communication. The instructions should be clearly communicated to every parishioner. I think what that means is that you can help us, because not everybody in the parish is going to kick into our email blasts or you know, be able to get online as you are. There's some members of the parish who, you know, they just feel isolated. You know, they'll need people to be in touch with them. We're trying to do everything we can to reach everybody we can to, you know, by means of mail. But there's still some folks that'll be hard to connect with. And you know, and I know that we've got people in this community who are part of our parish, people in our parish or who come to our parish who are part of another parish or registered in another parish. We've got people who sort of move around a lot, and we want to communicate with everybody so that they know what's going on, so that everybody can take ownership of what we do and our approach to keeping everybody safe as we seek to worship. Again, our first priority is the common good. It's keeping people safe. The seventh general principle is to think of the long term. You know, again, we're all anxious to return to normalcy. You know, we're trying to find ways to, you know, to have people come together, and people are trying to find ways to come together and, you know, stretching things a little bit, and, you know, and connecting and saying, well, you know, I'm ready to be normal, therefore I guess it is normal, or nothing's happened to me and I'm pretty healthy and therefore I can connect in this way or that. You know, we've got to think of the long term, doing everything we can to diminish the threat of the coronavirus, which is still with us. And so social distancing, the wearing of masks, increased cleansing procedures, those are going to be with us for a long time. And that's certainly going to impact the way we worship and the rituals, which are so deep and so important as part of our faith. We're going to be working on this, and we'll have some diocesan guidelines, and then we hear once we get the diocesan guidelines, we'll pull it together in terms of the best way to implement these diocesan guidelines. Our goal is to help everybody to be safe, to help everybody to nurture their Catholic faith by their worship. We know we need to deal with Sunday Mass, but we also need to deal with confessions, with daily Mass, with weddings and funerals and baptisms. We'll be working up a revised plan pretty soon too for our adoration chapel. So we're attentive to all that. But I think the first thing is, as we move gradually, and it's going to happen fairly quickly, that we'll get the diocesan guidelines. That's, again, 90% are more sure of that we'll get the diocesan guidelines by this weekend, and we'll be working out things through the weekend and early next week to have our local approach. So that's my hope. Again, we realize that you don't want to say too much too definite at this time, because there's so many variables that are going on. But trust me, we're trying to do the best we can and have our church to be the vibrant cathedral it can be, and yet to be a safe place in the midst of this terrible time, which, when it's all said and done, is temporary. So that's where we are in terms of the reopening. We're all looking forward to it. We all know how inadequate it is, what we're doing now. Don't know if there's comments or questions, but
no, there's I guess one comment that came in on our YouTube stream was just a suggestion, since we won't be able to have the full, like you said, approaching maybe 25% to maintain the proper social distancing. We could look at the possibility of adding a Mass or two, just because of the numbers, to help get more people. So that's the only thing that came in as a suggestion.
That's a good thought, and that fits within the hopper. I think that's a great thing. And again, the delicate thing will be communication about that. And what we don't want is too many people coming to one Mass and not enough people coming to another Mass. So we got to put all our, and again, we can't do this as a committee of 2,000 people, but we'll need to get some folks together, and I sure don't want to say that I can or will have the answer as one person. I want to work with some other good folks who have wisdom and a history with how things can work liturgically, and we'll come up with something that'll work. Remember, I think it was last week I talked about being post shipwreck, the captain of the lifeboat. Well, we're moving towards land, and there's a lot of different ideas of how to get there. And fortunately or unfortunately, I'm the captain, so I'll work with you, but I'll sure be listening to everybody else who's on the boat.
Yep. Very good. Very good. That's a great update. That document that you were quoting from is just amazing. They got, that's 3 days old now. So it's very current, and it was a lot of great thought put into that, obviously. Got a lot of great reflection and very general but specific principles that we use as we begin to.
Well, and it gets a little further in depth with some suggestions, but it says, you all got to do what works for you all. So, but again, it doesn't come from a bunch of bureaucrats, but it comes from people who know liturgy, who know people, who know human nature, and who've been listening. They've been working hard. Okay.
Yeah. All right, Father Paul. I've got about 9 minutes till 11, and
I'll close with a final reflection. We're all in this together. Let me just tell you a story. It was on. My first assignment was in 1972. I served as a high school teacher, but also a part-time parish minister in Ashland, Kentucky at Holy Family Parish. They had a high school there, and so I taught in the high school, and then I helped out in the parish. And after about the second year, it just seemed like a great thing in the springtime to think of having a vacation Bible school. And so sort of got the word out, see who was interested in a lady named Betty was just so committed to the Bible school. So she and I were kind of like the the basis of the Bible school. She was like the director of the Vacation Bible School for years, and I called her Bible School Betty. Well, as it turned out, I think her husband must have worked for Ashland Oil, and they moved from Ashland to Lexington, and she's lived here, and she's been a member of our parish. She's been aging, and I haven't seen her too much. And just this past towards the end of last week, she died. She was living with her daughter, and I was so honored to be asked to offer the prayers at the funeral. And the funeral was at the funeral home. Her casket was closed. Her daughters and a cousin and the cousin's husband and a friend of their daughters was there. So there were 5 people and myself in the funeral home as we had the prayer service on her behalf. And what struck me is when I read the obituary that the funeral home provided, there were the names of so many people that I knew from those days in Ashland, and I just could visualize how cousins and nieces and nephews would have loved to come together with this reunion, at the time of this lovely lady's passing from this life to eternal life. And how much personally I'd have just enjoyed that reunion with some of the folks. Some of those names were people I taught in high school. Some of those names were, when I was a younger man, I could dribble and rebound and, occasionally put a basket and ball in the basket. So people I played basketball with as a young priest, and it had been wonderful to be reunited with them, just from a personal standpoint. It'd been wonderful to see their energy as they were reunited with one another and sharing stories. It'd been wonderful to hear from them stories about other aspects of Betty's life other than being Bible School Betty, and yet just didn't happen. And this is something we're all going through right now. We're just doing the best we can. We're doing the best we can in these times, and we're dealing with a lot of disappointment, a lot of inadequacies, but also we're dealing with God's grace that's with us. The 2 daughters were so appreciative that I could be there. They were so appreciative of the few words I shared, and the way of relating this woman as one who had been empowering, and a woman who had just a sense of forgiveness and a sense of joy about herself. And even from that, it sparked a couple more stories from their standpoint that they shared with me about the greatness of their mom. And so, after offering that simple service in the funeral home, I put my mask on and walked out of the funeral. And they themselves, they departed a little bit later, and then the next day, their mom's body was buried next to her husband at Camp Nelson. And Camp Nelson's funerals these days are nobody comes into the cemetery. You can only just follow the hearse and wait outside on the other side of Highway 27 or something like that, but couldn't even come in. So it's such a hard thing for us in these days, of course, when we want to connect, and yet so important for us to make the right decisions, the loving decisions, to keep ourselves and everybody else safe. It's going to be that way. It's going to, whatever we do when we get back to our masses, for the I'd say for the medium run. I wish I could say for the short run, but I think it's better to say for the medium run. We're going to be doing some things which will be satisfying and wonderful that we're together, but also so inadequate and so limited in what we can do and who we can be. We're all in this together. We're brothers and sisters in this, and we just got to do all we can to praise our God, to draw from the grace of our God, and to share our life and our love with one another, and just be open to God and God's goodness in this time frame. And I can tell you that my faith would be that among the many folks of the angels and saints who are going to be watching out for us and guiding us along as we move along, Bible School Betty is going to be one of them. She'll help us just as she's helping her daughters as they move forward. So God bless you. Have a great day today. Blessings as this weekend comes to us. Blessings especially to all mothers. Thanks for all you've given to your families and your children. Paula, thanks for being motherly as a great principal and mother of your own daughter that I know you're so proud of.
Thank you.
Many of you who read the email blasts and I guess we got some kind of bulletin online. You'll see a little bit of reflection from my end on my own mother. And let's trust our moms and the motherly folks who are in heaven to help us all to move forward and to live well, to make the right decisions, and to keep everybody safe as we still want to live with empowerment, with forgiveness, and with joy. So God bless you. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen.
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 Barring the unforeseen, I think next week Bishop John will be with us as our guest, and that'll give him a chance to speak of his vision, and you a chance to hear his vision for how we're doing and how we're moving forward. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Father Paul. Thank you, Paulus. And we'll talk to you guys soon.